You've spelunked into the Matt Cave. Yes, indeedy, it is the Matt Cave. Thank you all so much for spelunking on by this week. And this week, well, there's not terribly too much to talk about in the realm of sports. So, my gaming spelunkers, this one's for you. I'll talk about early here the 6 names that have been whittled down by Ryan Smith and Smith Entertainment Group and whatever firm he hired to help name and brand the new hockey team. So we'll go over that. And a few start dates for some stuff that I'll be watching all summer when it comes to sports. And then we will transition into gaming. The last 2 weeks has basically been the industry saying, this is what we're working on, this is what to look forward to, get your wallets out for me, is what's happened here. We had Sony State of Play, we had the Summer Gamefest, we also had Xbox Showcase. IGN's done a couple of other things like Indie Game Showcase and stuff like that over this past weekend. So we've got a lot coming, and there will be even more coming in August for a couple of different things. Call of Duty is going to have their multiplayer announcement, both for Warzone as well as regular multiplayer, and other games as well will be making announcements. And at that point, a lot of the games that I'm excited for will have come out. So that's what we've got to look forward to here, for this episode at least. But if you could do me a favor, Spelunker, and just head on over to wherever you're listening, give this show 5 stars, and leave a comment. You don't have to be witty with your comment. You can just say, Matt told me to do it. That works for me. And that really helps to get more people in here. It helps me get just more eyeballs and earballs listening to this show. And I do want to shout out that I am streaming now every weeknight around 5:30-ish p.m. Mountain Time. I'm going to try to hammer down that as the start time. But every weeknight around that time for about 3 to 4 hours, you can come hang out with me as I play various games. Right now I'm playing through Destiny 2. But when Shadow of the Erdtree comes out, I'll be playing that. Then when Final Fantasy XIV's new expansion comes out, I'll be playing that. So I'll be playing the games that I'll be reviewing on this show. So you can just kind of see it live there. But that's it. Let's get into things. So Ryan Smith and his collective, I'm just going to call it that because it's a Smith Entertainment Group, but he also hired out for name brand and marketing and all this other stuff. They have 520,000 votes came through for all of the names that they had. I think it was for 12 names that made the list. And so now they've whittled it down to 6. So 520,000 votes is pretty darn good. And if you listened to him this past week, there is over 325,000 deposits for season tickets. And I've made the joke before, and I'm going to make it again until the pricing comes out. That number is going to drop dramatically when everybody finds out how expensive season tickets are to a professional sports team, especially one that plays 41 games at home. So we'll see that number drop, but it is still exciting to see that number, 325,000 deposits. They did say about, I want to say 30% of those came from out-of-state people who will be given less of a priority when it comes to getting them, so that's even better. Most of them have come from within the state of Utah in the Wasatch Front, as well as in neighboring states that don't have a hockey team, so like Idaho, Montana, Wyoming. They're going to prioritize those people as well. So that's pretty cool. But let's move on to what I was talking about. So the 6 team names that have made it thus far are your Utah Blizzard, Utah Hockey Club, Utah Mammoth, Utah Outlaws, Utah Venom, and Utah Yeti. And I did say in the past that my pick would have been the Yeti. I've kind of pivoted on that. I'm quite partial to 2. First is Mammoth. The Utah Mammoth makes sense because they have found quite a few mammoth artifacts, what have you, footprints or skeletons, pieces of them in Utah. Not just like in the Wasatch Front, but in Utah, everywhere. So that's really cool and unique to the state of Utah. And the other one's going to surprise you, Spelunkers, probably. But I like Utah Hockey Club. I do. And my reasoning behind this is due to international sports and kind of how they named their teams as well. Because let's just take soccer or football as an example. It's Manchester United, right? It's not the Manchester Red Devils. I mean, that's their nickname. Like, that's more like a pet name that their fans have, but it's Manchester United. It's Arsenal. And because they're called Arsenal because a group of guys who worked in an arsenal that creating weapons and ammunition in 1861 got together and started playing soccer, that's why they're called Arsenal, not because it's a funny name or a cool name, So that's my reasoning behind it, Not some weird name that doesn't make sense like the Utah Jazz, who apparently, side tangent here, but hang with me, Ryan Smith recently said that the general manager of the New Orleans Pelicans approached him and asked him what it would take to get the Jazz name back to New Orleans. And if I were Ryan Smith, I would have said a bag of Lay's potato chips, because the Utah Jazz literally makes no sense. I don't care about the history. I don't care that they came from New Orleans. Let's move on from that name. Just give me that bag of Lay's potato chips. Make sure it's not 50% air. Get me a good bag. And we'll figure something out here in Utah. But yeah, do that. Why not? It was the New Orleans Jazz. That makes complete sense. It even sounds better than the New Orleans Pelicans. And just let Ryan Smith name this whatever he wants. The Storm and Mormons. I don't care. Just give it back. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. Utah Hockey Club. You can't really make fun of that name. I mean, there are ways to do it, like, oh, you couldn't come up with a name. You just gave up. But what's wrong with it? You're acquiescing to the fact that you're not 12-year-olds running a franchise in EA Sports NHL. You're adults, and Utah Hockey Club, bing, 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 you know what they do. When you bring up, let's say, the Salt Lake City Bees, what do you think they do? They play baseball. They're the AAA affiliate of the Los Angeles Angels. But it takes a second to think of that if you don't really know. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I'm thinking between the two names. Utah Mammoth, because mammoths have been found here. That's really cool. It's an interesting tidbit. And it would also drive, although minimally, some tourism to the state to go to those museums, to see those dinosaurs, to see those mammoths skeletons. And you can also see dinosaurs too, because dinosaurs have been found here too. And then Utah Hockey Club. Not pejorative at all, not presumptuous, not we're these cool, edgy people, like we're the Outlaws. How about just the hockey club? Why do we need nicknames for teams in America? They barely have them anywhere else. The only reason the Japanese Baseball League has them is because America brought baseball to Japan, and they also started the league, basically. And so the Japanese just kind of went off of that. And it's the same thing in South Korea with their baseball league. But anywhere else in the world, you don't really have nicknames. Even in Australia, I believe they don't have nicknames for most of their teams. So let's go with the Utah Hockey Club or the Mammoth. Let's make that happen. I really, 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 really do not want the Venom, the Blizzard, or the Outlaws, really. Because the Outlaws just feels like you let a 13-year-old name the team. That doesn't make sense. Outlaws weren't really in Utah in the Wild West period. You could go into history and there's arguments to be made that, yes, it was settled by outlaws, but we're not going to get into that. Basically, what I'm saying here is go with the Mammoth or the Hockey Club, or else I'm not going to root for your team. Maybe. I probably will, just because they're from Utah. But I'll still be an Avalanche fan, first and foremost, if you don't pick one of my team names. All right, so there you go. That's the sports this week. Real Salt Lake was off due to the international break. And a quick word about the U.S. men's national team. Fire Greg Berhalter. Like, what are we doing? We lost 5-1 to Colombia when we were trying to be taken seriously as a soccer nation. I know we have been in this mode for about 40 years, but now we have a real chance. And instead of going with a progressive manager who is more attack-minded, wants to win, wants to show that he can manage on the international level, we go with a guy who's afraid to lose. We go with a guy who gets a goal and then he wants to stay back and just absorb pressure instead of press the advantage. When all of the talent that the U.S. men's national team has is on the attacking side of the ball. It's on the opponent's half of the field is where the talent is. Folarin Balogun, Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, Anthony Robinson when he moves forward. Just all of these guys. And we try to play from the back like we're Manchester City. Like, give me a break, man. And Ricardo Pepi had one of the worst games I've ever seen from a striker for the U.S. men's national team. And Matt Turner, oh my goodness, I was a proponent of his for a long time to play for Nottingham Forest this season. I can kind of see why they didn't play him. So yeah, it's not going to look good in Copa America this year, soccer fans. If you want to watch good and fun soccer and not frustrating soccer, you can watch Argentina and Brazil for Copa America. You can do that. Messi's playing in Copa America. Or you can watch the Euros. So this is the segue. I'm a professional at this. There you go. So the Euros will start June 14th with Germany versus Scotland. That's the kickoff match. It is at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. And this is awesome because you get soccer in the morning. And then starting on the 20th of June, you get soccer in the evening too. And it's international level. And these countries are going to be playing hard because there's an actual tangible trophy up for grabs. And so starting the 20th, you get soccer in the morning, you get soccer in the evening because Argentina and Canada kick off the Copa America at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. We got soccer in droves here at the end, here halfway through June and towards the end. And then when all of those wrap up, you got a couple of weeks, and then Paris 2024 begins July 26th. I don't know about you, but I love the Olympics. I always have. I got it from my mom. She watches them every year. And it starts July 26th and runs through August 11th. So just over a fortnight of the world's best doing what they do best. And it's so much fun. So I will be watching those. I hope you will be too. I don't know how much of this show I'll be dedicating to it. Maybe a lot, because at the end of July and beginning of August, we are getting into college football season, and a lot of the transfers will begin happening. But I'm very excited. I'm very excited about the Olympics, the Euros, and Copa America. I'm excited for all three of them. I love international competition. I think it's so much fun. And that should say something about me being into international soccer competitions because the U.S. is just terrible at it. And I still enjoy watching it. All right. That is the end of sports talk. Let's move in to the video game stuff, shall we? So last week, we had Sony's State of Play. And then this weekend, we had the Summer Game Fest as well as the Xbox Showcase. And IGN has kind of been running something all weekend where they do a deeper dive into the games that have been announced, as well as dedicating a little bit of extra time to indie studios. So not these AAA studios that obviously Sony and Microsoft would be dedicating a lot of time to. Now, let's go into what was announced and what caught my attention, I should say. So first, let's talk about Sony's State of Play. I was not terribly impressed by a lot of the games, and I think it's just because Sony's passed me by. There's God of War Ragnarok coming to PC. That's not necessarily good news for PC gamers because you're still going to need your PlayStation account. PlayStation, like I said, back with Helldivers 2, have already done this for, Ghost of Tsushima. So you need a PlayStation account to link to your Steam account to even be able to play these games. God of War is a single-player game. I don't know why I need a PlayStation account to link up to their servers to play it. It's a single-player game. Same thing with Ghost of Tsushima. It has a crappy multiplayer mode that nobody plays. And it has an amazing story with amazing gameplay. But it's single-player. Why do I need a PlayStation account to play my game at all? So that's kind of the way that Sony's going here. If you see what's happening with PC, it's just probably going to lead to yet another launcher on my desktop for this stuff. That makes zero sense to have. Why do I have to have one for Steam, EA, Xbox, Blizzard, Activision? Well, Activision Blizzard is the same company now, so I don't need an Activision one anymore. But you see what I'm saying. There's a lot, and it's only growing. There's Epic Game Store. There's GOG, which is a European-based Steam. So it's too many. But that being said, let's talk about a couple of the games that I am looking forward to. So they announced a new Dynasty Warriors game. If you are unfamiliar with Dynasty Warriors, when I was growing up, from ages about 13 to basically now, Dynasty Warriors is this one-man army, 1 versus 1,000 gameplay, beat 'em up. It is violent, but there's no blood, and it's a hoot and a holler. They've gotten away from it being just silly fun. You know, they went the more serious route recently, and now it's an origin story. And from what I could gather in the trailer, there's not much information about this game because it's not coming out until next year in 2025. But they were talking about an unknown hero, and the person they were showing is nobody that I recognize. And if you know me, I've read the Three Kingdoms written by Luo Guanzong 3 times, which is the pseudo-history, I want to say, romanticized history of the later Han and the fall of it and what happened after that. So I have a lot of knowledge about this, and the person they were showing does not look like anyone that I remember playing in Dynasty Warriors or reading about in the Three Kingdoms. So I feel like it's a brand new character that you will be playing that will be introduced into these different historical moments of that time period, which I'm all for. If it is truly a brand new character that you can create and that you can, air quotes, level up, I'm down. Put me in, coach. I'm ready for that. But other than that, when it comes to Sony State of Play, there was nothing for me. So God of War Ragnarok for PC, there's going to be a Horizon Zero Dawn Lego game. So Lego is doing a really wonderful job of getting all these different properties and getting those properties to allow them to make games. Fortnite's doing it with Star Wars. Lego and Star Wars go back a long time. We're talking early Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 days, and they're just fun, silly games. They take the seriousness out of those movies and they just make it funny. Same thing with like Lego Batman, Lego Indiana Jones, all of those things. So they're adding in Horizon Zero Dawn. And I'm not sure if that's going to be for the Fortnite Lego or if it's going to be its own standalone. I didn't look too close into it. But that's kind of exciting. But when I look at the rest of it, I just was underwhelmed by what Sony showed. And heads up, Spelunkers, there's a lot. This is like the era of Souls-like games. And if you're unfamiliar with that term, it's games that are like Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, Elden Ring. I think that's the core of it from FromSoft. So basically what that is it's epic boss battles and then unforgiving gameplay up to get to those boss battles. And that's a Souls-like. That's what a lot of these games have been. So from Sony State of Play, that's really all that stood out to me. There's like a Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon-esque Souls-like game coming out that kind of caught my eye a little bit because the cinematics that they showed of it were gorgeous. But just not really for me. I think it was called Where the Winds Meet. Interesting game. Doesn't come out until next year anyway. Same thing with this Dynasty Warriors Origins game. Doesn't come out until next year. That's pretty much what it was for the Sony State of Play this year. At least for the May version. They may do another one later this year to just kind of show the progress of some of the games they've announced and maybe announce new ones. But that's kind of where we're at with Sony, so I was underwhelmed. And maybe it's just passed me by. So let's move on to the Summer Game Fest. There were a lot of games that caught my eye at Summer Game Fest. This is Jeff Keighley, who's a huge video game guy. He was the presenter for E3 when it was around. He did it for G4 TV, if you guys remember that. He was a presenter for IGN for a while. Like, he's a big name in gaming. So he's tried to create another E3-like experience because E3 has been officially canceled. It's done and gone, which sucks. But that's just the way it is. So, now, Summer Game Fest, what I'm looking forward to, because I think I'm running out of time here. I got about 10 minutes to cover 2 expos. Let's see what we got. So, Metaphor ReFantazio. This game is made by the creators of the Shin Megami Tensei and Persona games. Those were a lot of words. If you don't understand them, that's fine. Those games are RPGs based off of, like, late high school drama that warps into an anime-esque silliness, and they're fun. Persona 5 is one of the best games I've ever played, and I encourage you to play it. It's a really fun game. Metaphor ReFantazio is in that same vein, where with this one, you have jobs instead of personas. So you have this job, and you can change it, level up, and then change into a different job and level that one up. So you have jobs like Paladin, Thief, the usual fare. And it just looks really fun. It looks like something I would be really into when it comes out. It is slated to launch on October 11th of 2024 for everything. Everything. PC, PlayStation, Xbox, you've got it. Just not Nintendo. Nintendo took a hit with a lot of these games because most of these games that have been announced will not be hitting the Switch. Period. Not even the Switch 2 when that comes out next year, I think. No mention of Nintendo hardly anywhere. So Nintendo's got to do something with their Treehouse Live, or if they do their own Nintendo State of Play, whatever you want to call it, they need to come back in a major way. Next game, Tears of Metal. This is for PC. This is a silly beat 'em up action co-op hack and slash roguelike with Scottish history, not even history, it's just got a Scottish overtone to it, and there's Scottish metal in it, the music. It's incredible. Like, I'm stumbling here because I'm so excited about this game. It looks so silly, the art style is so unique, and it's just something I feel like I could just kind of turn my brain off and play. So this one I'm excited for. There was no announced date for it, but it looks very up my alley, I guess I could say. Next game I want to talk about that was at the Summer Games Fest, Inotria, The Last Song. This is a Souls-like game where basically you fight bosses and take their masks, and you can switch between those masks to have different styles of play in the middle of combat. So if you need something that's faster, you switch to that mask and you're a faster fighter. You need something that's big, tanky, and has a huge heft of a hit behind it, you can switch masks to that, and then back again to do quick damage while the guy is staggered. It looks fantastic. I watched a streamer I like play the demo of it, and I might play the demo myself just to see if it really is something I want to get. But it is a Souls-like game, and it does look very fun. It is slated for launch September 19th of this year, 2024, coming out for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. I'll be getting it for PC, and it just looks great. It looks great. Next one I'm going to talk about is The First Descendant. So The First Descendant is a looter shooter game that combines RPG with third-person shooter combat. So looter shooter games you can think of are the Borderlands series, kind of popularized it. Destiny is a looter shooter. They don't really like to call it that, but that's essentially what it is. So games like that. And this one looks great. It's sci-fi, and it's versus environment. So it's player versus environment. There's no PvP that I can see. They might introduce it, which I think would be a mistake. But it's an online co-op multiplayer looter shooter coming out for everything. Coming out for PlayStation, Xbox, PC, and for Xbox and PlayStation, it's PlayStation 5 and 4, and then Xbox, it's Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S. And it's also coming out for PC. And this looks great. It looks great. It looks like they combine like the class system of Borderlands because they have different characters that have different classes. There was this bunny armor that looked really cool that a character turned into in the middle of a firefight that I want to try. It made him super fast. So this game looks awesome. This one's slated to come out the day after my birthday, the best day of the year, July 2nd. And I'll be getting it. I won't be playing it that day, though, because I will probably be playing the Final Fantasy XIV expansion. But there's this one as well. Next up, Phantom Blade Zero. This one is another Souls-like game based more closely off of Japanese aesthetic. It's a semi-open world game consisting of multiple large maps filled with diverse and handcrafted activities. And if that sounded like I was reading from a script, it's because I was. This game has no release date, and it's coming out for PlayStation and PC. It looked incredible from what they showed. I can't wait to get more information about this game. This was a brand new announcement. It was a world premiere when they did it. And this is definitely something I want to sink my teeth into because it looks like another, obviously it's another Souls-like because it's the era of Souls-like games. But my goodness, this game was gorgeous. The combat looked fluid, and it just watching it felt like it would be a good game. With a lot of these trailers, you watch them and you just go, well, at least they tried. You know, it's going to be like a 6 or 7 out of 10 game. And then you have games like Phantom Blade Zero that get announced, and it's like, that's a 9 out of 10. Could be even a 10 out of 10 game. I can't wait. That's what that is. So, also announced at the Summer Games Fest, the creators of Among Us, Inner Sloth, announced that due to the popularity of their game and how much money they made off of it during the pandemic as well as afterwards, they are actually creating their own publishing studio for indie studios, which is a wonderful announcement, especially in the state that gaming is in right now, where I talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Microsoft is shutting down completely successful studios that won awards, have great communities, they sell a bunch, and they close them down anyway. That doesn't make sense. And so that's what the people from Inner Sloth thought as well. And so basically what they said during their announcement was, if it's a game that looks like we want to play, we want to publish it. And that's basically it. So it's outersloth.com. If there are any game developers out there, get your game out there. I'm a lot like Thor from Pirate Software. Just create. Just go do it. There's no reason to not. So that's an amazing announcement that I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about. And the next one I want to talk about is Pal World. Haven't talked about that in a while. I haven't played it in a while either, but there is a new content update, which is different from an expansion because it's not paid. You buy the game, you get this. It's the Sakurajima update, and that will be coming, I believe, next month in July, I think. And new pals, new environment, new stuff to craft at your base, new styles for your base, and it looks really fun. There's also going to be modding support in it as well. Awesome. Pal World. And I love what the creative director of Pal World said. He said, it's okay if you take a break from our game. It's okay to go play other stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's really fun out there. Go. Enjoy it. We'll be here. That is the perfect way to look at games. The perfect way. It does not need to be how AAA studios view their games. If there is a huge spike in players and then it drops off, you know what that usually means? It means they beat the game and that they just don't care about multiplayer. That's what that means. Not every game is going to be World of Warcraft. Not every game is going to be Overwatch when it first came out. Not every game is going to be like, Call of Duty Warzone. It's just not. And that's okay. But AAA studios just don't understand that. So that's really awesome. And then Civilization 7 is officially announced. I don't think any of us were surprised that it was going to get announced, but it's nice to know that it's coming. And they did say it would be coming out next year in 2025. So that is Sony State of Play and the Summer Games Fest. And now I have to fit in... This episode's going to go a little bit long. The Xbox Showcase. There was a lot to digest from this one. This one was probably the best showcase of all three. So here we go. Obviously, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is the huge one. It will be coming to Games Pass if you have it day one, and this will be launching October 25th. I'm tired of Call of Duty. I have Call of Duty fatigue. I basically have first-person shooter fatigue. The only one I really play anymore is Destiny. So there is that. They are making innovations. They are doing stuff to make the game feel fresh and new again for the devotees of Call of Duty. For people like me, it's not enough to bring me back into the fold. I stopped playing Call of Duty multiplayer. Black Ops 2 was probably the last one I put a lot of time into. No, Advanced Warfare was probably the last one I put a lot of time into. And that's because that one felt different. It had those mech suit things, jump higher and do that stuff. So, yeah, new Call of Duty, whoop-de-doo, is basically how I feel about it. The big one was their first announcement trailer was Doom. They're making a new Doom. Again, another game that's not for me, but a ton of people love it. And it has an amazing soundtrack. And from all of the stuff that I've seen, I've watched a couple of YouTubers play it, a couple of streams of it. It does look like they're having a blast playing it. It's just not my motif. It's not my aesthetic. But new one coming out next year. It's called Doom: The Dark Ages. It does look like it'll be a lot of fun for you if you like that sort of game. Next announcement was a zombie game. I know. That collective groan that you heard around 11:15 Mountain Time on June 9th was the gaming community going, really? Another zombie game? Really? Well, we got one. State of Decay 3. It's all about remembering those who we lost and all that sort of thing. State of Decay is a game obviously set up in a zombie apocalypse where you're gathering survivors to create a new community to go and then rescue other survivors and bring them in. It was a good game when it first came out. The second one was still decent enough. Third one, I'm not getting it. But if that is your flavor, you still like the zombie stuff, it looks like this is going to be right up your alley. It really does. For a lot of these games, they do look good. That's why I'm talking about them. There were even more announced that I'm not talking about, just to give you an idea. So next one I want to talk about is Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Comes out fall 2024. It's the last gasp of Bethesda to try to save the Dragon Age series. Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2, people adored. And then Dragon Age Ascension, not so much. And now we have this one, Veilguard. So it's their last gasp. It looks like they're not taking themselves as seriously as they did in Dragon Age Ascension, which I can appreciate. There's more humor involved with it. I like that, personally. It doesn't always have to be the end of the world that you're trying to prevent. Doesn't always have to be that. So that's coming out fall 2024. Next is, I starred this because it looks so good. It was a world premiere, and the game is called Expedition 33. And the premise of the game is you are a group of people. I know I just said this, but you're a group of people trying to prevent, it's not the end of the world, but the entity that runs the world that you're in this game is called the Artist. And the Artist draws death. Every time she does it, there's a number that ticks down, and more people die. And so you are this group of people trying to prevent this from happening again by going and stopping the Artist. I think that's such a cool and different way to look at it, instead of, a big, huge demon is coming up from hell to eat the world, or an outer space entity is coming to destroy the world and rebuild it in its image. Destiny. And so that's a fresh take, and I am super excited about this game. It doesn't come out until next year, though. That's another one I'm chomping at the bit to get more information about. From what I could tell, it does look like another Souls-like game. There it is again, era of the Souls-like. But Expedition 33, if you're looking for a game that blew me away in any of these conferences, it's that one. Next up, World of Warcraft War Within. We have a launch date. We've always had a launch window, but we've never had a date. We've got one now. It was announced at the Xbox Game Showcase. August 26th, 2024 is when the War Within comes out. From what I've been seeing from leaks, as well as articles written by IGN and others, they are making a lot of changes to make it more friendly for the solo player. So if you don't have a guild, you don't have a bunch of friends who play, you can still enjoy it. That's me. All of my friends are either too old or too busy to play the game, and so I'm just kind of doing the stuff by myself because I still love World of Warcraft. So that's exciting for me. That means I can do endgame content without getting kicked out for being a noob, for not knowing the fights, for having a low gear score. I can still go in and do stuff. So that's exciting for me. Diablo 4 has an expansion coming this October. It's called The Vessel of Hatred. With this most recent update from Diablo, when it was moved to Game Pass, A lot of people are saying they fixed a lot of stuff and it's a better game. Personally, I haven't put any time into it, really. I didn't like the area that the game was set in, and obviously they wrote this game and did all of it before the stuff in Ukraine that's happening. But that's kind of the area that they're in. So I didn't really feel comfortable, fighting against the end of the world and Satan and all of that in that region. Just felt too real. But that's coming out this October. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Now, this one surprised me how much I want to play it. It is Uncharted. It is Tomb Raider. It is those types of games. Only finally it's Indiana Jones instead of facsimiles for him. It does not look fantastic, but it does look fun. And that's important. If these games look fun to you, please play them. Please try them out. Everybody deserves to have fun. And just because I rate a game differently than you would, doesn't mean you shouldn't go play it. I'm just here to tell you about the game and my thoughts on it. That's how game reviewers should be. But anyway, that one comes out later this year. It just said 2024, which means it has a strong possibility of getting pushed back. So just I'll keep an eye on that for you guys. Next up, Fable. Finally, I got to see some more stuff on Fable, and it looks great. Does it look perfect? No. Does it look like it's going to be some epic experience? Not necessarily, but they have their humor in the game, and the humor resonates with me. It is so funny. In this most recent one, they are interviewing a retired hero, and he's talking about this new person that he trained and that he took under his wing. It's so funny. I cannot wait for this game. I hope it'll be fun, but we have more news on it. It has a release year, which is huge. It's been in development limbo basically since pre-pandemic, and now here we are. We have a release year, 2025. Oh, please be a good game. Please be a good game. And lastly, not really shocking news to anybody who really follows the scene, but Gears of War is getting a new game. The studio that is in charge of it has been working on it for at least 6 years, if not longer. It's a Gears of War E-Day, which means this is a prequel to the entire series happening. E-Day is, I think it's Excavation Day or something, where the enemies of humanity come up from underneath the ground and basically cause Armageddon. And you are part of the COG, Children of the Gear, I think is what it's called. And you're fighting off against them to stop Armageddon. And this is the story of before what happens in Gears of War 1, basically. So there's no other information other than a really cool-looking trailer where you see a cinematic of one of the main characters of the series, one of the fan favorites, fighting against a locust who, though that's basically the name of the bad guys, the baddies. And it's just really cool. It looked really cool. I'm not a fan of Gears. I'm not. I openly admit that. Back in my day, back in the old 2006, it was between Halo and Gears of War, really, for Xbox fans, and I was in on Halo, 100%. There was no other Xbox exclusive worth playing unless it was Fable, and that was different because it wasn't a first-person shooter or an action shooter, and I was Halo. My friends were way into Gears. Like, we're talking way missing school to play Gears. That wasn't me. I was a Halo guy, so I will not be getting this. I'll just be telling you that right now. You can't even peer pressure me into getting it. I know the story enough of these games to know what's going on. I hate to say it, but for me, it's a run-of-the-mill, end-of-the-world story just with a different kind of villain. That's really what it is. And then the main characters experience loss in different ways, just like you would expect in any story that's like this. So for me, it's cookie cutter. Halo was different. Halo saved first-person shooters, first of all, and has this amazing story where Gears of War is not. And Gears of War also gave us Cliff Bleszinski, which if you don't know him, go look him up. He's a character. But the only thing missing from this Xbox Game Showcase was an Xbox handheld. There were rumors out there that they might announce something like it, and it's always been a rumor as far back as I can remember. Ever since PlayStation launched the PSP, the PlayStation Portable, everybody's been waiting for Xbox to do something similar. And then Nintendo did the Nintendo Switch, and everybody was like, all right, so what's Xbox going to do? And then PlayStation most recently has the PlayStation 5 Remote Play controller. And now everybody's saying, what's Xbox going to do? Here's a news flash for you. They're probably not going to do anything in the handheld gaming sphere, because with Phil Spencer in charge, he wants PC and Xbox to kind of just have no line between them. Just be the same thing. Only one person's playing on a mouse and keyboard, the other person is playing on a controller. I think that's his vision. And so, why create a handheld when you have laptops? Just throwing that out there. But there you go. That was the only thing missing from the Xbox Game Showcase. When it comes to PlayStation, I haven't really been following PlayStation enough, other than their missteps and foibles, much like Microsoft's, when it comes to PR and how to handle things. Newsflash, they both failed miserably. But that's where we're at. It's very exciting. I know movies, for a lot of you, have been flopping straight onto their faces. Gaming, while in a sort of precarious position right now because of the monopolization of a lot of stuff, it's still in a very strong space. So, there you go. That's the show this week, everybody. Thank you all so much for listening. I know I'm way over time here, but this is a big episode for me because there was a lot of gaming news. If there's anything I missed, anything you want to talk to me about, please head over to my stream. That is the Matt Cave Podcast, all one word, on YouTube, or twitch.tv/Matts, Matts Cave. The Matt Cave wasn't available. Whatever. So that's where you can find me every weeknight, starting 5:30-ish Mountain Time. Come hang out. And I will see you all next week when we spelunk back into the Matt Cave. Seriously, Greg Berhalter, 5-1 against Colombia. The U.S. is like a top 25 rated FIFA club, or FIFA nation, and Colombia is not in the top 30.